Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a truly grim yet absolutely fascinating cosmic fable. We're going to use a classic philosophical framework, the Fichtean dialectic, to unpack this massive metaphysical struggle. It's essentially a story about the tension between erasing painful, tragic memories to achieve perfect universal order versus making the choice to carry the messy, heavy burden of hope. It's a dark tale for sure, but the underlying mechanics of how these cosmic forces actually operate are just captivating. Let's get into it.
So, to really get a grip on this universe, we first need to understand the exact lens we're looking through, and that brings us to our framing character, Baron von Nechts. He's this cosmic entity, and his whole job is to observe dying, corrupted realities right before they completely collapse. But here's the thing. To the Baron, the messy performance of existence, all of human suffering, all of our tragedies, it isn't something to mourn. He literally views it as a thermodynamic inefficiency. To him, existence is just a math problem that desperately needs to be corrected.
Part 1. Thesis: The Cosmic Unmaker.
Now, the Baron's core philosophy is defined by this idea of nihilism triumphant. He basically sees himself as the necessary fire that's required to burn away the fetish of form, meaning you have to completely dismantle the old to clear the stage for new creation. And he does this while maintaining total, clinical, aesthetic detachment from the pain of the worlds he's overseeing. He proudly calls himself the Übermensch. In his own view, his laughter is what confirms the destruction of all values. He acts as this ontological anchor, ensuring that every broken vow, every tragedy, is accurately accounted for within a zero-point matrix.
Okay, but how exactly do you erase a tragic reality? Well, it's a pretty terrifying industrial procedure. The Baron operates what's called the Sapphire Forge, which metabolizes narrative inertia. First, he uses a Z-pinch plasma touch, which is focused cold plasma, to initiate the extraction. Second, there's a process of thermal volatilization that literally boils away the thermodynamic noise of memory and identity, turning it into this non-reactive slurry. Third, the crushing weight of a world's tragic destiny is physically reduced down into a high-density polished blue gem, a perfect zero. Finally, that gem is slotted into the frozen gravitational waves of the void ledger, just filed away as a silent line item.
Part 2. Antithesis: The Consuming Vampire Sovereign.
Right, so if the Baron is our cold, calculating thesis, then our antithesis is the Captain, who is an evolved vampire sovereign. To really grasp what he represents, we need to quickly define a philosophical concept, the Fichtean absolute I. Normally, the absolute I is the foundational check for self-consciousness. It's what allows a being to even recognize its own existence. But here, in this fable, the Captain acts as an inverted apotheosis. He doesn't just oppose consciousness, he aggressively consumes it. He devours the very possibility of being, reducing these complex spiritual ecosystems into a parched blank page. For the Captain, life itself is reduced to mere water waiting to be stolen.
And you actually see this destruction playing out on a massive industrial scale. The Captain harvests hubris. He takes the hyper-cerebral ego and the divine lightning of a figure known as King Glaucus, and he transforms it through this devastating Quimoda scream. And the result? He turns an entire world into a lightning-scarred grave of global material desiccation.
So, what we're looking at here is a stark, almost jarring contrast between two cosmic forces. On one hand, you have the Baron, geometric, focused purely on thermodynamic efficiency, seeking that perfect zero through cold, clinical extraction. On the other hand, you have the Captain, a biological anomaly entirely driven by terminal thirst, enacting a jagged nihilism through sheer material desiccation. Simply put, the Baron is trying to quietly, perfectly file the universe away in a ledger, while the Captain is violently drinking it dry.
Part 3. Synthesis: The Sapphire Awakening.
This is where things get really wild. When these two opposing forces finally collide, the Baron realizes something impossible. The Captain hasn't just destroyed a world. As an evolved vampire sovereign, he has actually surpassed the law of final entropy. Faced with this, the Baron makes a shocking, totally out-of-character decision, an inverted kenosis. Instead of erasing the Captain's horrifying journey into another silent blue gem, he completely redefines his absolute nihilism. He deliberately chooses to harbor that thermodynamic inefficiency, that chaotic noise of hope, right within his own cold plasma form. It's a profound, sacrificial choice that totally shatters his role as an impartial observer.
Let's break down the actual mechanics of this rebellion, because it happens fast and it's incredibly dramatic. Stepping completely out of the shadow and breaking his clinical detachment, the Baron acts. First, instead of the usual perfect blue gem, a specific violet gem is chosen.
Next, a runic seal is utilized, etching a linguistic scar directly onto it. And then, in a massive act of defiance, he places this imperfect scarred gem directly over his own heart.
Part 4. A Living Bridge of Hope.
The fallout from that choice is just staggering. The Void Ledger, that ultimate universal record designed to perfectly and silently file away all tragedy, is left broken. Because the very entity built to perfect it shows defiance, the ledger's geometric symmetry is forever disrupted. It will permanently remain incomplete.
So what happens to the Unmaker? Well, the Baron transforms from a clinical Unmaker into a literal, fleshly bridge. Instead of letting the timeline be entirely erased by the Captain's terminal thirst, he invites the Captain to a new reality, Dorille Mythos, within the Uncanny Mirror universe. The Baron makes the ultimate choice to carry the saline nightmare of a world that dared to hope.
Which really brings us to one final lingering question. What is the ultimate cosmic cost of disrupting perfect geometric symmetry, just to bear the heavy, radically inefficient burden of hope? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it helped you appreciate the deep, intricate mechanics behind this beautiful, grim-dark fable.